good afternoon and a huge warm welcome to Carnation Crafts. It's the final show for Floral Embrace from our own studios, which is always a bit sad. It always feels like we're coming to the end of something, especially when the collection is so blooming powerful, excuse the pun, but it is the most extraordinary collection, and you're going to have the best fun. And I know a lot of you have already got this in your hands already, that you are already ready and set and ready to go and make the most glorious things. Hey Pam Lillington, how you doing, lovely? Hi Karen Vincent. Hey Yvette Ward, lovely to have you here. So hey Linda Poland, in the last show I started to make the collar, and we're going to progress with that in this demonstration, and then hopefully at the end I'll have time to do one more card for you as well, so you've got some final inspiration. I'm going to try and do an 8x8 if we have time, so that you're getting, by this point you'll have had a full remit from apertures to easels, just across the board, and you'll be able to go back and watch the shows for whichever card type that you like. Hopefully I've covered as many as I can. So just to let you know, final foray, the number for this collection on the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk, is 230911. You'll be able to get best price of $98.99 today by using the discount code CCFE10. That's all in capitals. You use that at checkout. So instead of it costing you the original usual price of $109.99, it takes it down to $98.99. And obviously that's going to be your best option. That discount will disappear off the website at some point this week, which means this is really your last chance to fill your bags. On top of that, we've also got an extraordinary set of nested dies as well. Truly, truly beautiful nesteds that are called the Teardrop and Sweep, and they are 230915. That's got a best price of $134.99 if you use that code, and that's free UK P&P obviously as well, because it's over the £50 remit that Carnation put on. Finally, for this collection, you have also got your perfect papers, which are extraordinary with this collection. They're so pretty. You've got rich pinks, apricots, you've got beautiful violets in there as well, all matching in with the florals that we're using, so you're not going to clash. Everything will go. Some with patterns and textures. That's 300 GSM, so it's not actually paper, it is cardstock. Brilliant for construction for your mats and layers. It's got a show price of $14.99, $2.95 UK P&P if you're buying that individually. If you wanted to get free P&P and you're buying an individual and then you'd like to get the perfect papers and you're still under the remit, please do remember Carnation now stock American Crafts cardstock as well. They've also got the gorgeous new die that we were looking at earlier in the earlier show called Personal Touch, which is a little handmade die. It's handmade by die. Let's see if I can find one of Janine's samples for you so you can see what I mean. You've got a little die that sits that says handmade by. That can be put on all of the back of your cards. It can be put on all of your construction pieces for anything you make, anything that you make at all. It's all going to sit there for you. Really, really cute. That's $9.99 from the Carnation Crafts website, and you'll find that on the number 230910. So that are all the things. I think I've gone through all the things. Have I gone through the things, Miss Taz? She's given me a thumbs up. My housekeeping is sorted. Now, we've got a video that the wonderful Bunny over at Carnation Crafters, or Carnation Crafts, should I say, HQ, made for us, or for you to be able to see construction of florals. We had one yesterday, so please do check back on that. This is a brand new one today. We're going to play it for you now so you can see it, and then we'll be back with boards and demos. awesome, right? What a collection. What a pleasure to work with this. It is just so, so pretty. Different variant forms of how we create that 3D vase with those flowers lifted and pointed. And we can see how when you use one predominant colour in it, it's very, very beautiful. But when we start to build that up as well into those different colours, and we've got all of this gorgeous viewpoint going on, you've got all the extra bits as well. We've got your tiny little flowers here, so you can see how one is just made up on its own. We will talk about that floral construction, and I will make that flower once more for you today as well, because that's the one that has a construction element, as in where we piece it together. The rest of them are all about sculpting and shaping with the ball tools, so we will look at that. I'm going to show you some different finished samples, and then from there we're going to go to boards so you can see what it is that you're getting, and then we're going to go to demo. So shall I do these from the front, Miss Towns? Is that easier for you? This is beautiful. Barbara Treadwell, thank you. The simplicity and the joy of working with something that's got that kind of textural detail in it, because what happens is sometimes less can be more. We need very little because the showstopper sits here. Where we've got your beautiful little beads at the back, that just adds that little kind of, the idea of dew, isn't it? It's very, very sweet and very pretty, but the showstopper, and see how your perfect papers, you see the colour here, this peach colour, this apricot. If you look at the petal here, you'll find that that's an exact match. That's why it doesn't ever clash, and that's really, really important, because when you make cards, one tonal hue difference or out will make all of the difference visually. It'll have something off with it. So always important to work within the color scopes that we're working is. It's not actual colors, it's color hue, and hue is different. So we talk about the blush papers with Carnation a lot, don't we? So you've got the pink and the blue and the I always want to call it vanilla, but it is natural. They've just got a tonal quality to them, and the joy of that is we'll either cool our cards or it'll warm our cards depending what we're doing. And the same thing happens when we're working with perfect papers. We'll warm it or we'll cool it depending which tones we go to. And because Carnation do everything with no colour clash, it makes life an awful lot simpler. You've got, look at that, for a pretty little easel. Isn't that just a joy? That gorgeous big happy daisy at the bottom that's allowing the card to rest. It's your gorgeous stopper, and then you've got this visual coming up. We don't need to change the flowers. You can stick with one colour focus on this, and when you're working white on white, that has got such massive impact. Really, really pretty. Now, just to say, blush papers we were talking about, this is the blue. You can see the difference when you're looking here, and you can see the white background of the card through the little holes in the teardrop and sweep. You can see it just there. You've got the blue tone on top. What that does is brings out the blue tones that are in the foliage, and so you get this really gorgeous hazy tone to it, really pretty. Now I'll stop waffling and I'll start just showing you some more. My favourite, I think, of the actual cards is this. I'm so inspired by this card. That sweep going around the oval is such a joy with your showstopper at the bottom. If you take out some of the bees from other collections that we've had in, or some butterflies, and tuck them in those florals, wouldn't that also be outstanding? Just stunning to look at. The lovely sentiment as well. I was talking to you about this sentiment piece here. We've got 3 different labels. This one, really beautiful when we're working with something that is circular. So if you keep in mind that what we're working with is a circular base, and then we use a circular plaque, it tones the two together. We're reiterating the shape, and so visual reiteration, and it really, really helps. It's just a really easy trick for the eye. When we've got something that's more traditional, but still that absolute bloom that comes with that, the throwing out of shape. Look at that. It's the dimension, isn't it? And it's very difficult to see from the front, but when you're holding these cards in your hands and you're looking at them, the joy of it, that push forward is so pretty to look at. This one, again, true example of sculpting and how that shaping is going to affect everything that you do, because that sculpt, that forward bloom, look at that push. Incredible, isn't it? Really, really incredible, joyful way of doing this. Just a little note on here, we're talking about these labels. This is obviously not a circular shape. This is a very, very rectangular, geometric. We've still got the curvature on there. Why does it work? Well, for this particular example, it's because we've got the corner elements sitting at the bottom, which are piecing out a shape for us here in order for that to have that rounding. So that then brings out the rounding of the rows. So we're always looking at shape. We're always looking about sort of geometry. Where are we going with it? Why are we building it? Why are we doing it? Just different ways of playing. All of the labels, by the way, would have worked with that one. And then this one, if you're not working with the little plaques and you're deciding instead to work in easel shape, when we're working with the nested dies, you get these small ones which provide us with the best little tags for sentiments. They're so cute. They are so delicious. Look at the shaping on these. That protrusion is so pretty, right? I love that. I love the whites with the purples. Isn't that really, really lovely to look at? There's something very wedding about that, fresh spring. It's got just such a joyful note to it. Then let's go to the absolutely pared back, the clean, the simple, the absolute pared back. Beautiful. Doesn't that say a whole heap? I will say as well, hold on. Where's my brain going, Miss Taz? Well, don't look at me puzzled. Loving Hands. That's where I was going. Loving Hands. The colourway. In my head, without looking at the two comparatively side by side, I think you'll find that the Loving Hands collection also works beautifully with these. You know the hands that we have, so you've got the aperture. I think you'll find that colour-wise, we are in a really nice symbiotic shift with those two collections. So what are you getting for your money? Let's have a look at some boards. We'll go through these ones super fast because we have seen them lots, but I do want those who are watching this for the first time to be able to see them. I've got these in the right model here, Miss Towers. Hi, heck. Did it. Hey, Linda McLeod, how you doing, gorgeous? Are you okay? Back from the dentist. Ooh, we don't like the dentist. I'm allergic to dentists. Right, so you've got this gorgeous halo shape. Absolutely beautiful halo shape. The band. This is what's providing us with the vase in order for us to be able to put those stems on. And isn't it pretty with all of the little slots that come out for you to change how you're doing it. So you could have these tabs poked in to any of these in order to change the shape of the vase that you put in the flowers in. By vase, I mean the band. It's what you're going to glue everything to. Gorgeous corners. Don't use these just to work on this card shape. They work with so many different things, these little corners. Really, really pretty. And we'll use an example of that in the demo that I'm about to do as a front panel for the collared card shape. So we're using this as a collar and as the vase. Then you've got your beautiful, beautiful florals here. Really pretty. And the simple build of these. Remember, last time I'll say it because we said it a lot yesterday. When you're working with your stems, and you just saw that in the construction with the VT that you watched. When you're working with these, you might want to stick two together. You might want to stick three together. It depends what you're wanting from it. If you're going to use one on its own, it's going to have give because these are going to be heavier than the stem itself. That comes down to what you print it on. If you're going to print it on a 120 GSM Pro Print and you're going to do a mirrored vignette, which is my advice, that's going to take you to 240. When you piece two of those together, you're going to have 480. So we're now getting into really heavy construction. If you want it to be even firmer than that, add another one in. However, it has got a little score line going down. With the assistance of a pokey tool or a bone folder, you can get them to fold in half almost, and that also strengthens them. So it depends what you want to do with them. But bear in mind, if you start getting up in your GSM very, very high, you're going to have trouble scoring them. So I would say that two together is a really good stopping point because you'll still be able to get your score line. It will be very, very strong on that. So easy done. This is the one we'll have a look at just before we go straight into demo because this is the one that's got a construct to it. The rest of them are just shaping out, and we've done an awful lot on sculpting. The last show that we had this morning was very much a sculpting tutorial on these florals. So you can refer back to that. That was at 10 o'clock this morning. You can refer back to that at any time if you want any assistance with how to use the ball tools, which way it works with the florals. Then we've got your labels here as well. Super, super pretty. Hey up, Miss Taz. Super, super pretty labels, and again, different shapes doing different things. I don't know if I've just cut you all off on my microphone. Is it still working, Taz? So you've got all of your elements. You've got your little sentiments here with love, celebrate, and for you. These can all be stuck directly onto these labels, or you can stick them on the backing that they've got as well, and that's going to help you. You've got the little cardette. The little cardette is going to help you. Miss Taz is currently dressing me. I do apologise. Sorry, Miss Taz. Thank you. What you don't know is that she has to normally help me with those things as well, which is why she keeps trying to avoid me. So you've got the little cardette here that's going to hold these on, and you're going to be able to have those coming out of your stems and out of your florals to have any sentiment on that you want to have. It's just incredible. The board of dreams, the absolute board of dreams. I don't know genuinely that I've ever felt quite so much impact when I've looked at one of Carnation's boards as I did when I looked at that, because it's just breathtaking. There's so much going on, and yet still with that absolute kind of cacophony of colour, it still is so breathtaking, isn't it? Just as a board. It's a beautiful, it's almost an artwork just sitting there, and it shows you how much you're getting here, how many different variants, the different variants in foliage. You've also got the little piece here with this foliage, which has got your pivot heads on it. That allows you to put the small lilacs on there and create your own bloom, however you want it to be. All your different colours, all your different shaping, and we're going to sort of focus on that through demo. But with just very quick mention to those nested dies, because the nested dies are going super fast as well, and I don't want you to miss out. Nesteds are very, very important. Let me just pop this in without ruining the board and grab these. Quick brief run through of shapes, and then we'll get to demo. So you've got your rectangle. Aren't they beautiful? They've got a really lovely dense cut to them. So you've got this kind of chunk that goes through, and they're really pretty. You've also got your diamond. I just smacked the microphone, sorry. You've got the diamond. I love that so much. It's so pretty. Your circles. That's my favourite. The hexagon, I just love it. It's so dramatic, isn't it? It's got a really gorgeous feel to it. Your square. Your DL. And your oval. What a mad collection of nesteds. They're just beautiful. They've absolutely trumped all of my other nested as my new top favourites. I think they're absolutely beautiful and so stunning to look at. Right, who's with us? It's the final show. Let's give a shout out to you guys, because you've been with us on this journey the whole way through, and we are always grateful for that. Karen Vincent, hello. Yvette Ward. Yolanda in Holland, hello, lovely. Michelle, hello. Linda McLeod. Then we've got Joe Papworth. Serenity, hello, lovely. Sandra Curtis, hello. Ordered mine yesterday, arrived an hour ago. They're wonderful. They really are wonderful. Pam Lillington, hey. Linda Poland, hello. Terry, hello. Susan Tither, afternoon. Can't get my head around how spectacular these are. The peony is stunning. The dimension on the samples is breathtaking. Gold stars all round for the design team. Always gold stars for the design team. Best in the industry. I've been in the industry a long time. I've seen an awful lot of DT samples. Carnations, as far as I'm concerned, are absolutely at the top of the game. They are so good, and I cannot be more grateful for the DT. Jane Latos, hello, lovely. Are you all right? So we're going to go to demo. Have a look at what we're getting. Just another shout, 230911 on the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. If you are on the Carnation Crafts website, you can also go and search for the calendar. The calendar is your all-important best friend. The calendar shows you everything that we've got coming up. It's color-coded. It allows you to look at variants. So you can see there was a sale. We've got different things coming up for you. So you can see that on Saturday, I'm going to be at Hobby Maker with the brand new USB. Then you've got a web launch with Wheeler on Monday, which is clean and simple. And then I'll be with you back for Spooky Friends next week as well for the new Crafters Select. So lots coming up for you. Really, really exciting stuff coming for you. You can see there that we've also got embroidery and lace back to wear. That's going to be over on Hobby Maker, if my memory is correct. And I think you'll find there's going to be an awfully lovely new colourway for embroidery and lace. So dig your dies out for that and you'll be able to see the new colourway. Dawn, waiting for mine to arrive, just printing the vignettes. Hopefully it will be with you today. In the last show for demo, by the end of the show, we had got to the point where I had made a collar piece for this to go on. I think I've just slipped some glue there, so I'll just add a little extra. The collar is a really beautiful extra way of playing with this. You can go back to the last show and watch how the collar was made. I'm not going to remake it, but we are going to fill it and we're going to create height. We're going to look at how that height is built and raised and how we can procure different visuals from it. So we're going to do that now. I'm just going to make sure that's stuck. Isn't it pretty? What does it remind me of? Does it remind me of, in shape, Greek theatre, like an amphitheatre?
I was just about to say that.
Were you going to say the same thing? It's got that visual to it, hasn't it? Right, the first thing I'm going to do is construct the violet for you. I don't know if that's its correct name. It's the name I'm going to use and we're going to stick with it because I don't know any other name. So I just need to see if I've got a calyx. Let me just get my little box of tricks out so that I've got some multi-florals, and let's have a look at what we've got in here. My calyx are sitting down thither, so I can pull a couple of those out. I'm going to put that at the front. I hope it doesn't annoy anyone. Miss Taz, is that annoying you? I'll just put it there for a second. Is that okay? No, do you want me to move it?
That's fine.
Just while I'm doing this. So this has got individual petals. There is a score line, a pip down each one. Now you could remove some of those if you wanted to. Actually, it's annoying me, Miss Taz, more than it's annoying you. You can remove any of those petals if you want to make them smaller, or you can just leave it as it is. This is the stamen for the floral. So the first thing you're going to do is shunt that forward so that it sits and it's out of your way as far as construction is concerned. We're then going to just start folding these so that they go either way, and you've got manipulation of the whole piece. And we get to then play with shape, we get to play with sculpting. You can leave it exactly straight if you so chose. That's absolutely your choice. It depends what you want to do and how you want to create it. It's me, I'm obviously going to sculpt it. That's my thing. I did drop my ball tool in my glue in the last show, and now I need to pick it off. I apologise. Always the professional. Judy Reynolds, few bit late to the party, but here now just in time for the demos. Coffee in hand, we like that. Jane Latos received mine today. The Reach and High Floral say it's one of two. Will there be more florals coming? I think that's of the same set. I think there is the little labels that is your second point of that. So it's like one of two. The labels are the two of two. So it's all there for you. April, so enjoying Carla being back. Oh, that was very lovely. Thank you. 6:20 a.m. in the US. Oof. Oof. That's an early time. Now I can enjoy my Colour and Taz Morning Fix. This collection is amazing. So many ideas running through my head. It's where you can go, isn't it? I can give you so many demos, but the truth of the matter is the freedom lies with you and how you craft, and that's really awesome to have. So I'm going to turn this on its reverse, and I'm going to use the reverse as the power for my ball tool. The reverse is going to be the bit that I want to work with first as far as sculpting is concerned. I'm going to use quite a small ball tool on this because I'm working with small surface areas, because every petal is individual. So what I want to do is work with each one in an individual manner. I can choose to pinch them together to create that heart formation as we were looking at in the last show, or I can use it. What I don't want to do is sculpt around the bottom half. I'm just going to sculpt on the top where that little point is. I'm just sculpting there. I'm going to do the same thing on every pattern, every petal, sorry, individually, and I'm not going to go to the center. The reason being is I don't want it to cup, because I'm going to turn it the other way. I'm just working on getting a protrusion down so that when I turn it, I've already got some shaping. So we're just going to work across each petal. If you're sculpting, one of the things I see lots of people do, and they get frustrated with sculpting, if I'm trying to work this out at the back here, and one of the things I've seen a lot of people do, well, two things. First of all, If I take this and I just spring once, I'm not really going to get an awful lot out of that. Take your time. You don't want to rub the pattern off the paper, but just take your time to do a little bit of dimension. Now, the other thing that I see a load of people do, and it hurts my heart, it hurts my soul, it makes my eye twitch, and I have to look the other way, is taking this. I don't know if I've got a spare violet in here. Sorry, Miss Towers. This, and I know lots of people are tempted, and you do you. You absolutely do you. Listen, there's no crafting police, but don't do it in front of me because it hurts my heart. If I take this and I take my wrecking ball tool and I hold it like this and I dump it straight in the middle and I start to really push, it'll cut beautifully, right? But I am destroying every fibre in that. It's not the way. We don't want to damage it. Now, it's very, very easy to do. And I know that with certain vignettes, like this one's just cupped really beautiful, no issues. The problem is if I do that on every single one, and especially when I've got a big surface area, so if we look at that beautiful peony, if I go in with my wrecking ball and I push down and I'm working in a circle and I'm putting all of the pressure on it and I'm holding it like this, what I'm going to do is literally just break up the fibres in that paper in such a way that I'm never going to be able to recover my paper from it. It's going to have creases. Visually, I'm just destroying what I'm doing. Hold it like a pen as best you can and just very delicately. The big ball tool, the biggest one of all of them, I don't use very often. It's my least used one. It's only if I'm working huge surface area that I would ever go to that. Because like any tool, we use it in a way that's appropriate for the size that we're working, and it's just a way of working those out. So now I've got some delicate shaping out that we did at the beginning where we went petal to petal to petal to get that overturn. When I then turn this round the right way and I push that stamen back, I can then overlap these two petals. I'm going to need wet glue for that, so I'm going to use my everyday glue. And I'm going to take my applicator and I'm going to place it onto this petal. Just gently and delicately, but I am going to take it to the top. So from the bottom, but you can see, as far as residue is concerned, you can see the glisten, you can't see the glue. I don't want too much. It's going to splodge out of it. And what happens with that, and I'm the worst culprit as far as having marks on my card is concerned, I realise that. So, you know, I'm not entirely being a hypocrite here, or I am, but still I know I am. If you've got glue that splodges out, it goes on your fingers. And what happens is it goes on your finger and it starts to merge with dirt and oil that we naturally have sitting on our hands. We can't get rid of that oil. It's always going to be there. Oil can be a really useful thing when we're sculpting because with the oil, it will just ever so slightly be able to manipulate the paper. But if you've got glue on there, it'll collect dirt and it'll go black and you'll start to transfer that onto everything you do. So we're always trying to avoid transferring the oil from our hands as much as we can. So that's why we use less glue all the time, because when it merges with it, it's not good. So try and keep the two separate if you can and use less glue, not more. We're going to take the pokey out and we're just going to shape around just delicately all the way. Now we'd already done all of the work with the ball tool. So those fibres were already broken. So now when I try and get that turnover that I've got here, it's so simple to do with that pokey because I'd already done the work. Try and do the work first with the pokey. That way when you turn it, because if you don't and you haven't done that work, when you use the pokey, instead of it curling beautifully round, you're going to get like a straight edge where it just almost breaks down. It just flattens down because your pokey's pulling it. You've got to have that curve work first done with the ball tool. I hope that helps. I do know I go off on a tangent, so I apologise, but it is, you know, these things do make a difference. I'm going to take the calyx, however you pronounce it, the thing that goes on the bottom of the flower. I'm going to take some wet glue, not much. Place it in the centre. Take my flower. You see I've still got the stamen sitting at the side. I haven't shunted it forward purposefully. Find a ball tool that's an appropriate size. seat it, because you've got a point at the bottom here. You're going to have to crush that down. And just put the pressure on, let the glue dry, remove your ball tool, grab your pokey, pull your stamen forward. Everything constructed with absolute ease. Really simple. There's no right or wrong way. Listen guys, if you want to take your big wrecking ball and do the circle, you go for it. Like, it's just ways I've found of working. I've been sculpting with paper now for 10 years. You learn things as you go, right? And if I can give you any advice, that's the best I can give you, is your ball tools are your best friend. Patience is also your next. I don't have a lot of patience in general, but when it comes to crafting, you kind of need it. Right, let's have a look at some flowers. I've made up some flowers previously, as you all know. And we're going to play with those. We're going to play with height and we're going to play with dimension. But I will talk to you about the stems again because I think it's important. So where I've got this sitting here and I've got this stem, I'm just going to move this to the side so I can see what I'm doing and shift the light phase for you. Where I've got this, oh, sorry, Ellen. Do you put the join at the bottom when attaching the stem? Do you mean to these? To this one, Ellen? Do you put the join at the bottom when attaching to the stem? The join of which? Sorry, Ellen. Can you just type a message for me so I know which bit you mean? Because when we're attaching the stem, what happens is you've got a dot. You've got what's called your little pivot head at the top here. And all I'm going to do is glue that to that. And that's going to give me a really sturdy floral. And you see how this is bent? It's because we've got in these, let me find two the same size. The same size? Yeah. So if you've got these facing the right way, and they pin together perfectly, they've got a score line down them. Now, let's work with the stems. If I do one, it's going to have a natural bend. If I do two, it's going to start being very, very strong and it's going to stand upright. The ones that you're using at the back are going to need to stand upright. You're going to need the height. The ones at the front, not so much. So you can play with them. Sometimes it's easier to just batch make, so in which case I would just suggest doing them all 2 by 2 if you're just batch making up your stems. So I've got those pinned together and they're now obviously 440. If I take a pokey, you can do a scoreboard, it's up to you, the pokey's fine. I'm just going to curve it round. If you haven't got a pokey at hand, you can use your glue applicators as well. It's just something that's cylindrical and thin. And we're just going to give it that shunt. Then you can start just shunting it round and we're just curving. And you do that all the way up the stem. You're just manipulating that paper, which by the way is now cardstock because we have gone over your GSM. So we're now working with card and you've created your own cardstock by increasing your GSM. And we're just very delicately going to shift. Okay, and that's just going to give it a little curvature just around, and you can play with that and just pull your nails through it and it'll just sit perfectly. Now from that point I obviously want to attach my little floral. So you've got to be steady here because you've got to make sure that you attach it the right way, because if I do it this way, that protrusion where I've bent it is facing forward and that's going to be the front of my stem, whereas this V line that comes at the back is at the back there. So we're going to do it this way, make sure it's the right way. I made a few mistakes when I was putting these together and put my stem on the wrong way. It doesn't matter, but you can see it. I'm just going to place and hold and allow that glue to just set. Just there. Okay, lift, done. Really beautiful. But you're just going to play with that stamen, pull it out. You can shape the stamen, by the way, which also looks very pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? All done. Really easy, nice way of playing. Let me just catch up. So Ellen, where you stick the flower together to form the flower, Do you put that at the bottom of the flower when you put the flower head on the stem? Yeah. So the one I just battered with my ball tool, which is now very weak, might I add. It's not got any strength. There's a little dot. Can you see this dot just down here where my hand is, my finger is? That's going to go over and form. What happens then, Ellen, if as I do that, if I can do this, I'm not going to glue it, but I'll show you it. That point sits up. Can you see that a little bit? It's pointed. If you think of that in terms of being a proper flower head, you can see, sorry, Taz, I'm just trying to get your light. That's just, sorry, it's too small, I think. There's a little point. And you don't want the point. You're going to have to flatten that. And that's when we use the ball tool on the inside. So everything done with a flattening. So if I just very quickly push that together, I hope this answers what you're saying. I can't work with that point. If I didn't want a calyx on here and I wanted to just put that straight onto a stem, it's not going to be stabilized because I'm working with a tiny piece where you can see that point. I'm just working on that. I've got to crush that bottom. So that little piece here has got to be pushed down with a ball tool to flatten it. You can almost feel it happen when you do it. It just flattens it out. And that's just then going to sit. So now that's flat bottomed. Okay? So I've got nothing, no point. And that is now going to be able to sit straight onto my stem. I'm just going to glue the two of those together. The calyx is a really pretty way of kind of disguising that joint, but you're not going to necessarily want a calyx on every single flower. And certainly on the peonies and stuff like that, you can't really see it, so it's kind of, you don't really need it, but it's up to you how you play, obviously. Right, let's build some height and florals. Now, what we're going to talk about is the bottom part first, because that's got a really beautiful shaping out to it. I want it to be a little bit higher. Let me just change that so the lights. How can I change the light, Miss Taz? There you go. So if I take this and round it out and glue that to the front, do you see how I now get a new height at the front? That's going to give me a really forgiving point, because it means that I can lower the flowers at the front, but I've still got a little bit of height to work with. And it's going to be this beautiful, forgiving moment. So just smidges of wet glue. Pushing that in and pushing it round. Sorry about my great big sausage Yorkshire hands. Judy Reynolds, if only a ball tool could give me a flat bottom. Yeah, you and me both, girl. As I said the other day, mine's got its own postcode, and it now takes 3 strong men and a wheelbarrow to get it anywhere, but it is what it is, and it's mine. Right, now, when we're talking about building height and we're talking about that shunting forward, that slope that we create because we're working with the collar, you've got to be able to create layers in essence of what we're doing. Something just fell down from the ceiling and I don't know what it was. So I need something at the front that's going to give me height. Okay, so this is a really good starting point. When we're working with the cardette with a little card, that's going to give a good forgiving start, because now I can start to work behind. The alternative is to use a large floral at the front, something that sits low but is big. What that's going to allow you to do is build foliage behind, and that's going to make it look thicker and fuller all the time. So that's what we're wanting really, because if we don't do much, what we're going to have is a naked center, and we don't really want the naked center because we want that sloping. So using a big, strong, powerful floral at the front, going to be your best friend. So I'm going to take my gorgeous peony and I'm going to find a pair of scissors and snip my stem down. I'm just going, these are a bit loose and flappy, so we're going to put them down just thither and thither. Now they're done especially with little pit marks, so we can use the foliage separately as well. You don't have to use it as one piece, but what that gives me from the front is a really beautiful stem line, okay? And it's much smaller. My stem now is much smaller. If it's still too big, it shouldn't be, because my height value should work with the wee little corner angle that I used. I could probably do with taking that down just a smidge. And I'm probably going to do that just a little bit, just to give it a little point to hide. Now, don't use much wet glue, she says, except for when you need to really pin it. So I'm going to take this all the way down my stem. I'm going to glue it at the back. I'm using the monitor that's in front of me to watch what I'm doing. This is what I was saying to you yesterday. If you're making these, it's really useful to do it in front of a mirror so you can see where everything is seated, okay? Now you can see that that is very heavy on the stem that I've got it, and it's starting to slip forward, and I'm not worried about that because I'm going to start building other things behind it, which is going to drag that head back. The peony is going to be the heaviest flower head that you've got in all of the constructions for it. So that's going to be the one that you really do want 2-3 stems on. That's the one that's going to need the most support. So we're always thinking in terms of support value. What is that going to be? What's my GSM support value for the floral head that I'm using? The violet, however, which is very, very light, you can easily get away with just using one stem because it holds the weight of it. It's how you want to play and how you want to do. Right, this has launched its own escape plot, a little bit like my cats, who are also launching their own escape plot at the minute because the weather's so hot they want to sit in the shade. So I've got my floral sitting there, very, very pretty indeed. I can manipulate and I can play. If your layers are sitting too far forward, you can use wet glue to pull them down. Obviously this has been done with pin flare. It's up to you. Just choose your ways. Now we're going to take advantage of foliage. Foliage is always, always strong with Carnation. They do beautiful foliage. They always have. But this one, if I can find a copy here, I used it a lot in demos, so I may have used all of them. But it's my absolute. Here it is. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Gorgeous, gorgeous foliage. Isn't it so gorgeous? Love the lines of it. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to use some of the grasses as well, just to build up some height at the front, but not too much, because a lot of the height I'm going to want at the back. So the first thing I'm going to do is pin some grass halfway up the back of the card. That's going to give me a height difference at the top, and that's going to allow me to pull some flowers through, and no matter what, that's going to sit higher, okay? So it just gives me a little bit of control at the back. I'm already building that slope by putting the height at the back with the grass, or grass. Grass. It's grass. I can do that all the way round. If I'm going to work in this all the way round, what I'm going to do is lower the grass as I go round. So if I was to put more grass, say 2 more pieces, I would put them lower down each time. So the height at the top will go down in the round as well. I'm going to see if I've got some more grass in my little box of tricks. And if I have, I'm making a mess. Sorry guys. If I have, I'll show you what I mean. I've got so many bits and pieces. I don't know where I've put all my spares, and I used so much through demos I may not have any spares, but we can use other foliage instead, so I can still show you what I mean. I'll go in with these because I think I've used my grass. So little amounts of glue, just give yourself a sticking point. Where I've got my grass at the top, I want to go lower as I'm working around. Now bear in mind, a lot of this foliage is going to be covered with florals. So that's going to go round. If it's falling forward, add a little bit of wet glue. Remember, we can add more, we can't take it away. The next side, do the same thing where we're going to be at the same height. So we're just little bits of wet glue. You can get that sticking point. Roughly the same height. Remember, I'm working with that monitor in front of me so I can see roughly where I'm pinning because I'm working back to front. It's easier for me to work back to front. You might find it different. Okay, my next set of foliage would come lower down, much lower down. So we're just always working as we progress through with height, with playing with height. So for instance, I could fill extra foliage down here. We'll do it for the sake of doing it, but I will say on a visual level, I'd be unlikely to put this much in. I'm just trying to show you what I mean by the height point in order to get this to move forward. So this little chap can sit here. And then I'll do another one, the same at the other side. Just seated. So I've got that little element. It's almost like using corner elements in a normal card, okay? So now I've sorted out the back of it. It looks a mess, right? Looks really awful at this stage, and we've got to rectify that situation. Now, first of all, this little chap is falling far too far forward. So the first thing I'm going to do is assist it by just pinning down that decoupage layer at the front. So visually, we're not overstepping. I'll still get the shaping from it, I'll still get the umph from it, but I won't have the forward weight problem that I've got just as it stands. So we're just going to pinch in. It'll still fall forward, but the less pressure we put, the less weight we put on the top of it, the easier it'll find. Now I'm going to stick some florals behind it, and those florals are going to help to just keep that up. So remember, your peony point is going to be the one that causes you issues as far as weight's concerned. It's the heaviest of all. So I'm going to go in with a couple of these. At the side, okay, and I'm going to pin those. I'm going to pin this peony head to them. You can put them on angles and you can hide them. Remember, we use that corner for good reason. It gives us that little bit of strength at the front, and it allows things to just be pinned together. So going in with those stems out. So now I'm sticking that to the bottom. I'm being quite rough, that's okay. Now, as we're going through and we're building the flower layers, what I'm going to start doing is pinning these to the flowers behind them. Everything will then start to pull back. And so the weight issues that you would have by using heavier flowers start to disappear. So we're using gravity as our best friend. Or we're manipulating gravity, should we say, really. Now, I can't really see what I'm doing from over the head, so you'll have to just bear with. Pinning to that peony. I'm just going to turn it for 1 second, guys, so I can see what I'm working with here. Just let me manipulate that and that. Right, where I've got those little lilacs that I've used, I'm going to turn this around in a second so you can see where I'm working from. But where I've got them, if you're starting to struggle on the construction side of things and everything feels like it's falling forward and it's getting you frustrated, understand frustration. It is annoying when we're trying to do things and things aren't playing. Let me show you a trick. So I've got some wet glue. You see how I've got the little lilac sitting at the front here, and it's just glorious, isn't it? Those colours are beautiful. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of wet glue, and where I've got a petal there, I'm going to pin it to my collar. Remember, the lilacs are taking the weight of the peony and they're pulling the peony back. So by pinning that to the collar, and the collar is my main support system, it's going to allow it to pull back that peony, and then I can start working further with the layers. Do you need to do it? No. Will it help you as you're constructing? Yes. And if you're getting frustrated, it's just going to allow you to have that little moment of peace where you can work. So now what I've got is a fully constructed, you see how the peony is now standing proud, it's sitting forward, everything is held together. And now I can start filling in. I've got elements here that I can play and work with, I can do all sorts. So I've got beautiful little pieces of foliage here. I'm going to have to kind of work on a sideline here, guys, just so I can see what I'm doing. But where I said that these are held together with pips, I can move, I can shape, I can divide. and I can start building in foliage at the bottom down here just to give it some oomph. At the front, just to pin in, and these are just to give you little ideas. I'm going to take my hands. I've got such big sausage hands. They're not delicate. My sister's got really beautiful, long, delicate piano playing hands, and then I've got sausages because my hands are exactly the same as my father's. So I'm going to place that in just to build. I'll turn this around for you in a moment. Placing in. Well, it is like a Jane Fonda workout, Miss Taz. Do you know who Jane Fonda is, Miss Taz? Yes. She was in one of my all-time favourite films, which is On Golden Pond, which still makes me cry when I watch it now. So now I've got just a little, you see how I've got a mouth that I can start working with. Because I've pinned everything at the front, I've got fullness. I filled it with a bit of foliage. You don't need much, we're just tricking the eye. So we've got that, and we can start to then build height. Now we're going to start building our slope. So what I need at the minute is florals at the back, and then I can tuck some florals into the center. It depends how you want to work. You might want to work with some higher ones as you're going back and then get to that point, or you might want to start on height and work forward. It's up to you how you play. It's what you find easiest. The reason I leave the center as my point where I'm going to tuck in at the last is because I need to glue those center points somewhere, and there isn't a ledge there for me. I could have made one if I wanted to, but there isn't one. So because of that, I need to have something behind and something in front so I can manipulate how it looks. So that's what I'm going to play with at this point. So from there, we're going to build some height. I need some gorgeous, happy faces on these florals. So that's going to come in here, and I can see from the gap that I've got at this point where it ends to where my peony begins, I'm going to need to have something that fits in that place. So this is where we're going with that. I've just put down, where have I put it? Do you know, applicators and I baffle each other. My ability to lose them is second to none. Piecing that through, pinning. I'm constantly pinning everything together. Okay. Make sure it all gets shunted and pinned to the back. And we're just pinching, just to make sure it sits. Make sure it's stabilised with your wet glue. See how pretty? Take this, I'm just going to shunt those forward. It's been sat flat in my box. Shunt them round. Okay. We're starting to build. You see how it then starts to come together, and we're getting this manipulation with that beautiful collar sitting behind. Really simple playways, but they're really effective. So I need some more big flowers, but I don't want any more of that pink just yet. It's too much for me, and I don't want them to be as high as the ones next to it. They can be, and it's super cute, right, just to sort of look at. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need to tuck that behind that pink flower, and they would stand almost as like soldiers at the side, but I want them to go down in size because I'm going to follow the pattern of the cuff. So a little bit off. I'm going to make sure it's the same at the other side, so I'm giving myself a fighting chance. So just cutting those down. Wet glue, wet glue, wet glue. Always, always your best friend, just down that stem line. Now your stem's bent, remember, so we're working with the edges of that, not in the center point. And I'm going to bring this down, and I'm going to just seat it at the side, okay? So again, I'm building height, but I'm going down in height now. And that's going to allow me to have that fullness and that slope forward, because I need my midpoints as well. Just plenty on that stem line. Same again, t'other side, okay? Building in, up and around, and shaping through. You can shape all these out again. The best thing I can tell you is shape them to start with because they'll hold their form. You are going to flatten them a little bit by doing the build, and that's okay because it has already been shaped. Muscle memory of the paper. You'll then be able to use your hands to just manipulate it, to pull them forward, to play, and we kind of poof it up right at the end, and that's fine. It's just, you know, making sure you've got all your little layers. So now, because I've got the big pink in the center and I've got the two whites at the side, I'm going to need to look at my gradient of color and how I want it to be. I've obviously got that glorious peony at the bottom, so I don't want to outshine the peony. That's going to be an absolute shame. So it's about looking at how I tonally shift it. So what I want is realistically some of these florals. Now, if you want to manipulate the fullness of this card, I can't stress to you enough, the easiest way to do it is to use the foliage that we get with it. So to put on little leaves on your stems, I'm not going to do all of them because we are starting to run out of time and I don't want to hold you all hostage for too long. I know that's frustrating when you're watching these shows, not particularly ours, but just in general. So I'm just going to place this quite near to the top, not right to the top, because I want some fullness from it, but I don't want to destroy what I'm doing. Okay, so that's going to sit and we get that beauty. Isn't that so pretty? But it gives me depth, it gives me extra oomph. I've got fullness where I'm working. Now obviously this is too high for where I want to go, but I'm going to go sort of in the middle and lower. So because of that I need to chop this. Start in one position where you're chopping, and remember it's easier to chop it too long and be able to take more off than t'other way round. Now I'll sort that out with the little lilac in a minute. I'm just gauging my height. That's still too long and my florals are getting attached. Let me do it on this one so I can work quicker. So about there is lovely. Right, you can see how we're getting that height variation. So by now I'm at the point where what I really want to be doing is just putting some glue on here. I'm not too worried about the stem. I'll run a little bit down, but to be honest, I need that point. This is where that pivot head becomes so important because I'm going to pin it to the flower behind. Now what I'm just going to do is turn it so I can see it. Sorry guys, and then I'll turn it round and you'll see where I've been. But I just want to pin it to that back point, and that should theoretically have the right height. Okay, super sweet. Remember, you can play and you can manipulate. She says as she pulls it off, you can play and you can manipulate those shapes at the end. Don't worry about it when you're building it, because otherwise you'll become clumsy in what you're doing. You'll get too focused on shaping each flower out. You can do that at the end and that's fine. You don't need to fight with it from the very beginning. Going to put one more of those in. I'm just going to snip these off because I don't want them waffing around. Wet glue, wet glue, wet glue. T'other side, sorry guys, just turn it so I can see where I'm going. Filling out with these daisies that are just so cute and summery and blossomy and lovely. Okay. So now we're starting to look pretty full. Now we're cooking on gas, but there's something missing. And the reason that there's something missing is where I've got this rounding of the white daisies, I got to break it up. I have to break that color up. I don't need to do much to do it, but I have to break it up because what I'm doing is causing you to focus on the gap. I'm not allowing you to see the card in its full. I need to breach the gap. And the way I'm going to do that is with one more final violet. And that's going to allow it to have the height in that central point, but I'm breaking the arc. Because the arc of daisies comes down, I need to break that arc. Otherwise, I'm going to have a visual misstep and I need to create a fullness there. I hope that makes sense. I think you can see it. Visually, I'm not very good at explaining, but I think visually you can see what I mean with that arc of daisies. I need something to sit here. I need to break the arc. And I'm going to use my violets to do it. I don't know if that's actually their name. I think I'm just making flower names up as I'm going. Right. What I'm going to do is seat this first of all and make sure I've got the point where I want it to be. Can you see? I know I'm cockeyed. Can you see how that breaks that arc up? Yeah? But I need it to be slightly lower than it is. Now I can manipulate. It doesn't need to sit on the floor. So it doesn't matter if it's too short on this one, because I don't need the stem to hit the floor. What I need the stem to do is visually look like it's there, but then it gets hidden by the peony at the front. So I can play with the height. So what I'm going to do is just turn it for me visually, just a second. Sorry guys, so I can just place in, make sure I've got that point where I want it. Yes, I have. I'm going to take my wet glue. Build it in, push it, allow it to stick, allow it to seat. Out! She says, all the things happened. Did not, it came off. Put that in. Make sure it's stuck. Now, you could probably do with straightening that a little bit, but can you see how now I've got the fullness and everything seems to make a lot more sense? And that is absolutely perfect for what I need it to be. I've got the fullness, I've got the slope going forward, I've got the arc, I've broken everything up that I need to. It's probably got a little bit too much foliage for my taste, but at least it's full and I'm okay with that. I'm going to take a little cardette here. Just the one, Mrs. Wembley, just the one. Push, and I can choose where to seat this. Now I want it actually behind the peony. I just want the height point to be there. It's quite nice if you do it on an angle, but for me I'm going to probably keep it relatively straight. The reason it looks nice on an angle is they tend to come on an angle when you get them from a florist, so maybe we'll stick with that and do it on a little bit of an angle. And it's just that extra visual. You don't have to have everything in symmetry. I'm a symmetry girl, but you don't need it to be all in symmetry. I'm just turning it so I can see what I'm doing. Again, apologies, but it's easier for me to just visually cue it. Put that down. So you've got that seated at the side. Really easy construct. Yes, it's a little time consuming, but to produce what we produce, time constraints should never be part of craft, really, when we're trying to create something that's really beautiful. Allow yourself some time to make these. My advice is sit and make a load of flowers up. Just make a ton of flowers up. Don't stick them to the stem. Create the flowers, keep them in a box, and then as you're working, you'll be playing all the time with the idea of construction, how you want the colors to be, how they want to play, and that way you can start putting your stems together. Now I'm going to take the executive decision. It is 1:04 and it's time for us to go, and we should have been out of here 4 minutes ago. I'm going to take the executive decision that I'm going to stay just 10 minutes longer. Sorry, Miss Taz. I'm going to do you another very quick demo because it's the last show. If you need to go, and you can watch this back any time. But the one thing we haven't done is an 8x8, and it is a celebrated card shape for some of us crafters. We like it, and I feel like you should have a demo of it. I'm pretty certain, but the time I've done this, you should have had most of the regular card shapes. You should have had a demo of each of those and a construction of each floral. So hopefully I've covered the whole remit of everything that you've got when you get it home in your paws. So I apologize, Miss Taz, but I'm doing the thing. So 8x8. Just keep them clean, unlike my good self. Take this, shuffle. I'll be quick. We'll do a quick one. Place it down. Get the next one. I'm using perfect papers on this. It's so pretty. I promise you, I'll be fast. I just want to give you a visual. Dark first, then light for me each time. I know lots of you like to do it the other way. Push, pull. Vanessa should be back at work. I'll wait till you've done. Vanessa, I'm going to go quick as I can. I won't take too much time shaping these out because you've seen what that is. What I want you to have is the visual. Obviously, it's going to look much better if all of that is really pulled forward. But I'm not going to worry about that too much now. What I want to do is give you an idea for an 8x8. We're working with corners, and it depends where you want your value of your corner to be. If I'm going to work with corners, why am I doing it? Am I putting a corner to give myself the visual diagonal that I want? Or am I going to use them at the bottom to give that V point? Which do you want? Doesn't matter which, both are correct, both are valid. You can use 4, you can do whatever you choose. For this, however, I'm going to choose to use them at the bottom because what I'm going to do is build height here. So I want that pyramid point to just sort of work against those, okay? So that's going to be important. More of this, more and more of this. Ew. I do apologise to Carnation if they weren't expecting me to go over. But I do want you to see as much value as you can. This is the last time I'll be able to show it on our channel for now. It's worth the 10 minutes. Just placing down. Okay, let's shape, let's play, let's do the things. I am working, what I wanted to do here is show you working with colour. So what I'm going to do, I don't know what I've just dropped, is make the executive decision as we're standing here now. I'm not shaping out because we don't have time and I don't want to keep you all held up, but I just want to show you colour points and working on the 8x8. I'm going to give myself a cue line from my corners. I'm taking the cue from my corners and going to place those out. Now, because we've got mirrored vignettes, it's best to play with those two curving the same way. Okay, if you're going to copy this as a demo, then it's best to work with those that way. Lift, glue, lift, glue. Make sure you've got them where you want them. That's about right for me, okay? There. Creating that happy smile. Sometimes when we get the smile line, again, that's your visual cue. We're already creating joy because you're giving, and we recognize, humans recognize facial recognition in everything. You might look at a brick wall and see a face. So what we do is try and copy things like smile lines because that gives it a really lovely, playful sort of piece. I'm then going to leave these pieces of foliage, but I do want to use them. Now, because I don't have time to shape everything and do everything, I'm just going to rock them. I can hear them cracking. If you don't have a ball tool, you can do this. It is a way around it. It's not as good by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll give me some. Ellen, the small full glitz fan would be ideal for covering your workings, wouldn't it, Ellen? Absolutely. There's so many elements to Carnation that are just so powerful, right? So what I want here, I've got 3 of these. I'm going to place one here, and one here. I'm building a triptych. Okay, can you see that formation coming through? I'm going to do it with pin flare because I want to raise it, but I'm not going to use much. I want a subtle raise. So working there on one, opposing it on the t'other, pulling in on my heighted piece. Just tucking that forward. Okay. I mean, that's really pretty anyway. It's unusual and I wouldn't want the workings to be there, but it's pretty. Now I'm going to take this one. This really should be shaped out, but we'll work with it. And I've just got the half. I've just got the smaller peony because I don't want to fully dominate with the big pink peony. I want the peach to be my main colour. Ellen, it looks like a Siamese cat's face. It does. Because we see faces in everything. That's what I mean about creating smile lines will be really important for your visuals. I'm just going to shape this back on itself. So I'm putting it forward, I'm folding it in half essentially, and then I'm putting those sort of wing pieces back, which is an alternative to having it all folded forward. If you don't want the ball, you can ball it out. That'll give you a different shaping. So if you can see from what I'm doing, you'll realize I'm missing the big peony in the pink and I've got the smaller one, okay? That's very purposeful. Now I'm going to sweep down a little bit further. The reason I use pin flare is because I'm going to need to move stuff. I'm going to work through, but now I can see visually where I want that extra piece of foliage to come down. And if I need to, I can cut them at the bottom. I'm not going to worry about it too much for sake of time. But when I'm doing any kind of work where I'm working out where I want things to be visually, certainly when it comes to things like this, I know the visual cue that I'm looking for. I leave these pieces till last because I am allowed to make better decisions with it. I can make better decisions. Now, it's a really striking card, but I don't like the gap in the middle, and I would never leave the gap in the middle. It looks weird. If you don't want to add anything else, absolutely just pull that one down. That's going to be fine. But I'm going to fill the gap, and I'm going to fill it with some colour. So what I'm going to do is use these. Now, normally I would be using a ball tool, as you are well aware. Oh. So please make sure you're shaping out. The first thing, into the centre. Panel it out to the side, keeping a little hint of that foliage. Tuck them all into place. So you've got that beautiful rounding out, really pretty rounding out with that gentle tone colour. I'm going to use a couple of buds, but not much, just to place into these elements. So they're just going to raise out from here. I'm not shaping them, I'm going to wet glue them. I'm also going to drop a massive blob of glue on my card. That's optional, probably wouldn't recommend. Another piece, and I'll tuck it under this one. Let's get that flute. Pokey tool comes to the rescue again. Just creating that symmetrical border. Super, super pretty. And then I'm going to come in with my sentiment. Now, the sentiment, depends what you want to do with your white space here. You can tuck the sentiment at the bottom, which I think is super cute. See all that white space, that beautiful, beautiful white space at the top that just makes the colour of those florals pop. You could put it at the top, right in the centre. You can do it offside. There's so many options for you to work with. I love white space. You know I love my white space, so I am going to keep it at the bottom. I want the card to breathe. So I'm just going to poke it and just slip it under that top decoupage. I might lift the hole and just allow the whole thing to just sit and rest on top as a little bit of visual extra. And I can work out, actually I think I just want the top layer. Composition is one of my favorite things because I can play, I can focus naturally on where my eye feels visually comfortable and work with strengths of the artwork that we're getting. Something really pretty. Now I would have sculpted that much more. I would have spent much more time on it, but we don't have time. But what I'll say, the power of that is that I didn't sculpt it. I didn't have time. I didn't do the extras. and yet still with the colours and those beautiful flowers that we're getting in the Floral Embrace collection, still we provide something incredible, and that doesn't have the dimension we would expect. But had I taken the time to do that, can you imagine where we'd be on this card? This collection is beyond anything I could have ever hoped it would be. It's just glorious. It's called Floral Embrace. It's on the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. The number is 230911. It's got a best price today of £98.99. But if you don't put in the code CCFE10 to get your 10% discount, then it is going to come up as £109.99. So please, please make sure you use your code. Now, I just wanted to Dawn. Loveliness. Just printed out all the colours of the flowers. The extra colours are amazing. As mirrored vignettes, so lots of glue in this afternoon. Now, my depression isn't good at the moment, but I find cutting therapeutic. My creative side seems to have disappeared for now. Dawn. Your creative side hasn't disappeared. The black dog is laying on it, and we all have those moments. Me, more than anyone, I know the black dog very, very well. The best advice I can give you, just cut some florals and don't think about anything that you're trying to make at the end at all. Just don't think about it. Then take a piece of 8x8 cardstock, use a circular die, cut a hole in the middle of it, put some foam tape around the edge and place that on a piece of cardstock. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter what. But take one floral shaped out and just put it in that central aperture. And your mojo is going to come back because suddenly you made something really pretty and you didn't have to think about it. You just did the things. Don't let the black dog win. The black dog can sometimes be our best friend too. And sometimes we get the most creative moments when we sit with him. I'm going to get going. I will see you on
Thursday.
The days. I will see you on Thursday at the times 11 for Adventure Awaits, when no doubt I'll be just as professional as I was today. It has been wonderful to have your company through the whole of Floral Embrace. I hope you get a kick out of it because it's the best collection. Please, when you put them in the group, in the Carnation Crafters group, please, please, please tag me in them because it has brought me nothing but joy, this whole collection. Thank you for being with us. Take really good care, and I will see you on Thursday. I'll see you on the day. It's great to see you. Take care.